Hi guys, welcome back to Scott Family Homestead. I'm Christine and today we're going to process some chickens. So yesterday I did a bunch of canning, and while I did that, Ryan butchered 10 of our Cornish cross chickens. So today I'm going to take 10 chickens and process them all the way down and show you how we put them into our pantry and freezers for the winter. So one of the first things that I do after we have butchered chickens is get some of the carcasses and extra bones into the roaster oven to get some broth made. So for canning chicken, you can use hot water or you can use broth. I prefer to have broth, and I can make it easily with the parts of the chickens that we're not using anyways. So I've had this going all night long, and this is ready to be used for our canning. Now in the past, when parting out chickens, what I would normally do is package legs and wings together so that we could use them usually just with barbecue sauce. So I use my Ninja Foodie and I pressure cook them, then put the barbecue sauce on, and then air fry it for just a little bit to kind of caramelize the barbecue sauce. So we package the legs and wings together. We do chicken thighs in a package, and I usually use those for like oven fried chicken or cook them in a skillet. And then I keep the breasts separate. So last year I attempted canning chicken breasts and I put them in 2 pints and we loved it. We used it for all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to do that again. I think that's a really good way to put up chicken breasts where it's already cooked, it's ready to go. You don't have to pull anything out of the freezer. I'm all about convenience with 4 kids. It just makes it so much easier. So I'm going to do quarts of chicken breasts this year. I'm also going to do bone-in chicken, which you can just take parts of chicken. I'm going to do the legs and put them all into a jar together, cover them in broth, and pressure can them. And then that is ready to go too. And you can just remove the meat when you're ready to use it for something. And so I am interested in giving that a try this year. And I want to do a full canner load, which is 7 quarts. So that's the canning portion that I'm going to use the broth for. I'm going to freeze all the wings together so that we can still do barbecue wings. We just won't have the legs because those are going to get canned. The rest of the thighs will get packaged and frozen. We're going to have a few more carcasses to cook down into broth, and then I will can the broth. And lastly, we have the hearts and the livers and the gizzards in the freeze dryer and making them into raw dog treats. So that will make it so we can use every part of these 10 chickens. I'm going to start by getting my pressure canner ready, and I'm not going to get it up to heat yet because I'm going to raw pack my chicken. So I just want to get a little bit of water in there and get it all set up on the stove so that it's ready to go. Are you going to help me can some chicken? I gained a partner. She's going to help me do chicken. So I actually had to buy jars yesterday. Our pantry is getting full and I have used so many jars. Get these washed up and ready to go, and then we're going to raw pack our chicken. So you use cold jars, put in cold or room temperature chicken. You're going to put it in a cold canner. If you're doing hot food, you want your jars warmed up. Hot jars, hot food, hot canner. So you just want all the temperature to be the same. So since we are putting raw, uncooked chicken in here, we're going to use room temperature jars. Same thing, like I'm going to get my canner set up, but I'm not going to get it heated yet because we don't want to put cold jars into a hot canner. It needs to have a rack in the bottom, so always make sure that's in there. And then just a couple of inches of water. Okay, here we got our chicken. This is 10 chickens. So we're going to start with doing legs. We're going to remove the skin. Okay, so we've got skinless legs. We're just going to put them in our jars. So they are about the height of a jar. So we're just going to alternate which direction they face until this is full. If you leave the bone in, it processes for a shorter amount of time than going boneless, but because we're also doing chicken breasts, which are boneless, we're going to do it for the longer time, which is 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. And then adjusting for altitude, we're actually at 15 pounds of pressure. So we've got 4 legs in there. The whole thing will get topped off with broth, and you want to leave a 1-inch head space, which is basically this entire rim here. So we'll put broth right up to the top of this chicken, and then this will be ready to be pressure canned. So because we have 10 chickens, we should be able to get 5 jars like that. Okay, so I have 4 jars that each have 4 legs in them, and then this one the legs were kind of smaller, so I was able to put 1 thigh in there too. So I've got 5 jars. I'm going to get my canner turned on, and so it's just starting to warm a little bit, and I'm going to put the warm broth on these and get them in there, just because I don't want the raw meat just sitting out super long. And then I'm going to start dealing with this as quickly as I can. So the next thing I'm going to do is breasts, and I am going to slice them kind of into like tender sized pieces. I'm not going to totally cube them down, but I do want this to be able to be like shredded easily, because a lot of the times that's what we're using it for. So I'm going to do as many breasts as I can. Then the wings are going to get packaged on their own, and then the thighs are going to get packaged. Those I'll do with my vacuum sealer after I get the canner completely started and the timer going. Okay, I got some hot broth. This is going to work great, and it's going to have a little bit more flavor than if I were to do just water, which you can do. You can do hot water. I'm going to fill these up, and then the most important part when you're doing chicken or anything that's really greasy, when you're wiping your rims, use vinegar. So just using a little bit of vinegar on this rag, I'm going to wipe the rims. That will cut the oil and the fat, and it'll make it so your jars seal. The first time I just did hot water, I said vinegar's not that important, right? And about half of them didn't seal. So trust me, don't waste your time, don't waste your food. Vinegar on the rims so you get a good seal. We're doing a 1-inch headspace. I believe the recipe says a generous 1 inch. Another really important part of this, because it's such big chunks of meat, is to make sure that you're getting all of the air pockets out. So use something with a firm but skinny handle and just stick it all the way down in there. I like this because it has a bigger, it's just a spatula, but it has a bigger handle on it. And as you do this, you'll see some big air bubbles coming up. Then after that air has come up, sometimes your broth will settle in, so you just want to top it off with enough broth that you're still at your 1-inch headspace. Okay, vinegar. If you're struggling with it not sealing because of the grease, another thing you can do is cool your broth completely, and that fat layer will form. Scrape that off and reheat it so it's hot, and then you'll have less fat content in your broth. That can help with the seals as well. And these I'm going to just do like nice large chunks and get them put into a jar. There's no requirement to have to cut these up. You could do full breasts in here if you want. I just find it's easier to use them when you can use smaller pieces. We use these for quesadillas, chicken salad, any kind of casserole that you want to put chicken in, and it's all cooked ready to go. It's cooked really well, so if you want to shred it, it's not hard to do that. These are more dense than when you do a bone-in chicken. It cooks longer in the pressure canner if you're doing boneless, because it just makes a really dense product versus if you have the bones in there and you've got more airspace, more broth, and it's getting up to heat a little bit faster. Remember, 1-inch headspace, so you don't want to overpack. So, and I'm not pushing it down, like packing it super, super tight. So this is about 5.5 breasts in here. So I'm following the directions and recipes from the Ball Complete Guide to Canning. That's my favorite book. I will link it. So my canner takes 7 quarts. I've got 2 more quarts of breasts to put in there, and I'm going to process everything at the time for the breasts because that's more. So we're going to do 90 minutes. I'm going to show you how the pressure canner works, but first I'm going to get these in there and just get them warming. Okay, this is an all-American pressure canner, which means that it has a weight that goes on it that gets you to the pressure that you need. So if you need 15 pounds of pressure, you're going to put the little circle right under the 15 onto here, but not yet. So what we're going to do, we're going to secure this top. So you want equal spacing all the way around. So you're just going to try to balance it out each way. So this is looking pretty good. And then you've got these that screw down and tighten it. And then you just want to get on eye level and make sure. I'm not sure about the Prestos, but I have a Tefal that you just put the top on and spin it, and then it is sealed. Those have gaskets though, so you will need to replace your gaskets every so often. The nice thing about the All-American, it has no gaskets because it has this system. So it's very easy to get used to and learn. I was nervous the first time, but it actually goes on really easy. Okay, so this is secured now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this up to boiling. This is going to start to steam, this little spout right here. That needs to steam, a steady stream of steam, for 10 minutes before you put your weight on. Then we're still not starting our timer yet. So like I said, we're going for 90 minutes. You will not start your timer until this starts to rattle. After this starts to wiggle and you're at 15 pounds of pressure, that's when your timer starts for 90 minutes, and you need to keep it at that pressure steady for the whole 90 minutes. At this point, now that we've got it going, and especially once you put your weight on, you don't want to move the canner. That's when people get into trouble, is like dropping canners when they're at pressure, or incorrectly using it on a glass top that's not designed for it. So you really want to be careful and make sure that you are meeting all the requirements for it. But as far as the canning process itself, it's actually not difficult. It's not as scary or as intimidating as people have probably made you think. I have a gas stove, which works perfectly for canning. I have this on a burner that has a simmer setting so that I can turn it way down if I need to. If it's on a burner that you can't turn way down, you might find that you're always like going over pressure. So you just want to get it on one of your smaller burners. It takes longer to get up to pressure and to get up to heat, but then you don't have to worry so much about adjusting it constantly. So if you can go nice and low on it, you can usually get it right to the right spot, and then once you've got it settled in at the right pressure, you can just let it go. You want to listen for it, but you can go do other things while you listen for the little rattle. I promise you, if pressure canning is something that you have wanted to do, you can do it. Okay? Just read your manual. It's not that bad. Beyond the 2 quarts that I put in there, I also have 4 pints of breast cut up in here. So, my canner can hold a lot more than 4 pints. What I'm going to do, I still have a bunch of broth, and broth is another one of those things that goes for a lot less time than your chicken, but it's not going to hurt to go longer. So I'm going to get the rest of the broth out of my roaster, and I'm just going to fill jars. And I actually have a second pressure canner, a Tefal. I'm going to get that one out and get that started with a little bit of warm water, and I'm going to pressure can these at the same time as the other one. It does make it a little more difficult when you've got 2 on the same stove to keep the temperature down low enough to keep it at the right pressure. But I'm going to be in here and watching it, so it really doesn't matter. That canner you can actually do 2 layers. So I'm just going to do a whole bunch of pints until I've got it full. I am using this Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. This thing has just about everything in it. Chicken, duck, goose, turkey, or game birds. Raw pack method is what we're going with here. Process pint jars of bone-in poultry for 65 minutes. Boneless for 75 minutes. So these are going to go 75 minutes. Now on the quarts, process quart jars, bone-in for 75 minutes. Boneless for 90. So I'm going to do everything for 90 in that pressure canner. And we'll do 75 on these because like chicken stock. Let's see. Pint jars for 20 minutes and quart jars for 25. So these jars are going to go a lot longer than 20 minutes because I'm going to do the 75 for the chicken. So this one has the gauge on it. We're going to use the gauge for this. It has 4 settings. So you've got your steam setting. You're going to let steam for 10 minutes just like the other one. And then 1 will get you to 5 pounds of pressure, or up to 5. 2 will get you up to 10. 3 will get you up to 15. With a dial gauge in our area, you go to 11 pounds of pressure. And this one needs just a little bit more babysitting and adjusting the heat. So it's not my preferred one versus the All-American, but it's much more affordable. If I were to do it again, I don't know if I'd buy the Tefal. I think I would go with one of the Presto canners because they just have such good reviews and a lot of people use them. But this was my first canner that I bought 5 or 6 years ago and it's still going strong. This is one of the ones that has the gasket in it. And the gasket still looks good. I'll set this on there, get it warmed up, get my chicken in there, get my broth in there, and we're ready to go with a double canner load today. This one here, instead of the clamp system, the handles just fit in together like this, and we're going to raise this up to steaming and let it go for 10 minutes. And over here we are almost steaming. It's not quite a steady stream yet, so I won't start my time, but we are getting there. Okay, I've got my Nesco Food Saver. I talked about this one in my butchering video and why we went with this one. I do like that it has the roll on the inside and the cutter. Ryan made a few bags here, so all I have to do, I like to do a double seal, and it'll take a little while to warm up, but I'll seal one end, and then I'm going to package these. So I'm going to put most of the wings, I'm just going to see how many I can fit in a pack, but they're going to be for like football games and stuff, so I'm going to do most of those, and then the thighs I'll do in packs of 8. Also got a steady stream on one of my canners, so I'm starting a 10-minute timer. It's going to be a little bit of chaos for a while because I got a bunch of things going on here. So lay them as flat as we can in here. Okay, at this point you can press it flatter if you want. You can kind of shift them around if you need to, but this is my little party pack of wings. 20 wings in there, all set to go. Nice and helpful. These are food back bags from foodbackbags.com. Get them on Amazon and they're way cheaper than the Food Saver bags. Okay, canner 2 is steaming, so I started my 10-minute timer on that. And this one has started to jiggle. So you'll listen for this jiggle, and you want it to do that about 1 to 4 times per minute. You can see it's reading very close to 15 pounds. And there it is. The 90 minutes in my All-American finished, and so I let it completely come down to pressure before I took the weight off. I just removed that, and I'm going to open this up. I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes and then pull the jars out, and they will be all done. And then this one here did its 75 minutes. It is just down to 0 pressure right now, so I'll just flip this down to the steam. It'll let the last bit of pressure out. And then when that is done, we can open this up. Again, wait about 10 minutes. And then we can take all these jars out. And so from those 10 chickens, we got 22 jars. There's 7 quarts and 15 pints. I also had 2 packs of 8 thighs and a pack of 20 wings. Wings, why did I say it like that? And then we're going to get started on the nombles, or the organ meat. We're going to start separating some of this out. I have a big bucket of what Ryan calls nombles. Apparently that's the official name for chicken guts. The gizzards will have to go on a separate tray. The feet are going to get packaged into the freezer, along with the carcasses that we have from the chickens that we parted out, and then all the necks will get frozen as well. Our hearts, livers, and gizzards are done. We like to cut the hearts in half, and so you will get 20 of these. With the gizzards, we also found, so they're very large. We also found those are best to be cut in half before you freeze dry. If you cut them right down the middle here, they'll dry so much faster because this is the thickest part. You're gonna have your livers, which are large pieces like this. In the video, you saw that we chopped a lot of those up as well. We actually package them into these as dog treats. We've got the hearts and the livers in smaller pieces. These are not a meal replacement for the dogs. They are meant to be treats because they do have a lot of vitamins and minerals in them. You don't want to overdo it. So these make the perfect dog treats. Now, if you don't have a freeze dryer, you can take your nombles and you can freeze them. You can cook them up and eat them yourself, or you could cook them up and feed them to your dogs. But again, you don't want to give 10 chickens worth to your dog all at once. use them as treats. Now, in our case, we butchered about 200 chickens this year, mostly for other families, and they generally don't take the organ meats. And so for us, a freeze dryer was a good investment. We got just bags and bags. I think I have probably about 30 of these little 1-ounce packs that in the future we may be selling those as dog treats. For now, our little Aussie Doodle and our Blue Heeler are loving them. And it's a great way to use them up because it's not something that we've ever consumed ourselves before. So that is it for today. That's what you can do with just 10 chickens. If you want to grow out and start small, that is a great place to start. Go ahead and get yourself a dozen or so Cornish cross, and you're going to have all kinds of meals set up for the rest of the year. If you're enjoying the homesteading and canning content, make sure you are subscribed. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and we hope to see you over there. Thank you for joining us at Scott Family Homestead, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.